while back we spent 2 weeks talking about 2 qualities that Christians should cultivate in their lives. 1 week we talked about love. Another week we talked about compassion. Today I'd like to go back to that theme of qualities we should cultivate in our lives and talk about honesty. Listen to this from Proverbs chapter 6. These are things that are an abomination to God. A proud look, a lying tongue, hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that devises wicked plans, feet that are swift in running to evil, a false witness who speaks lies, and one who sows discord among the brethren. Haunting, isn't it? How that speaks to this moment. The book of Proverbs has many other things to say against dishonesty. Dishonest scales are an abomination to the Lord, but a just way is his delight. He who speaks truth declares righteousness, but a false witness declares deceit. Lying lips are an abomination to the Lord. Those who deal truthfully are his delight. A dishonest man spreads strife. A whisperer separates close friends. An evildoer gives heed to false lips. A liar listens eagerly to a spiteful tongue. A man who bears false witness against his neighbor is like a club, a sword, and a sharp arrow. Confidence in an unfaithful man in time of trouble is like a bad tooth and a foot out of joint. Now, obviously, the book of Proverbs considers dishonesty to be bad. It's found all over the Bible. In the New Testament, 1 Peter says, "Whoever desires to love life and see good days, let him keep his tongue from evil and his lips from speaking deceit. Let him turn away from evil and do good. Let him seek peace and pursue it." Ephesians says, "Therefore, having put away falsehood, let each one of you speak the truth with his neighbor, for we are members of one another." It's all over the Bible. Lie not to one another. You have put off the old man with his deeds. This contrast between truth and falsehood, between honesty and dishonesty, comprises a central theme that runs through the Bible. God is associated with truth. Satan is associated with lies, falsehood, and deceit. Several of the Psalms refer to God as the God of truth. The book of Isaiah refers to God as the God of truth. In the New Testament, both the books of Titus and Hebrew tell us that God cannot lie. The book of 1 John refers to God as him who cannot lie. The Gospel of John says God is true. And all this is contrasted with Satan. For our gospel reading, we heard Jesus say that Satan has been a liar from the beginning and is the father of lies. And that is expanded on in other places in the Bible. In fact, if you go through there, you'll see Satan is associated with deception, falseness, shrewdness, seduction, secrecy, misleading, disguise, impostor, schemes, snares, craftiness, darkness, manipulating. All those things are associated with Satan. You know, the fundamental way that the Bible contrasts God and Satan is by using the categories of truth and falsehood, honesty and dishonesty. If we are dishonest, we are associated with Satan. No matter what else we do, no matter how we claim to be religious, if we are dishonest, we are on the side of Satan. Now, honesty, as it's talked about in the Bible, includes a lot more than simply telling the truth when asked a question. Dishonesty is not only lying. According to other things the Bible says, it also includes being shrewd. That means sly, tricky, slick. It includes scheming, maneuvering in secret, achieving one's aims using indirect methods, operating behind the scenes, operating with one hand behind your back, cleverness at getting what you want without others knowing what's going on, presenting one scene for the public view while what's really going on remains hidden. Those are the things that you can pull out of the Bible that it criticizes when it talks about deceit and dishonesty. You see, what deception and dishonesty really are is creating one image for the public to view, while what's really going on is hidden behind the scene. What's really going on is secret. People can't see it. It's manipulating without anyone suspecting what's going on. It's scheming, craftiness, arranging things to work out a certain way without anyone ever suspecting that's what's going on. It's operating where people can't see. It's hidden, secret manipulation. It is the works done in darkness. It is condemned in the Bible. In fact, it is presented as the starkest contrast to God, because those things are associated with the opposite of God, with Satan. Those things, though, characterized our society. All the way from national politics down to local politics, to business and industry, to advertising, public affairs, even all the way down to personal relationships between people. There was an incident among some people that we know not long ago. And there were so many lies told that nobody really knows what was going on or what happened. And I think they even don't know, because they wove such a web of lies that it couldn't keep up with them anymore. So it's not just the people in Washington that does it. It's the people down the street. I've probably used this example in another context, because this is one of the things that, you read something and you remember it years and years later. It's something you will never forget that makes such an impact on you. And I've read it, I'm sure I've talked about this before, because it's one of those key moments in your life. I was waiting in a doctor's office a long time ago, and I was passing the time by thumbing through a magazine. I don't remember what kind it was. Doctor's offices have business magazines like Business Week and Fortune and stuff like that. Well, it was probably something like that. And normally when I look at stuff like that, I just flip through the pictures, look at the headlines and I'll read them. But one article caught my attention, and I did read it. It was an interview with an advertising executive. And this advertising executive was addressing the issue of why TV advertisements have changed and why they present situations as normal that 20 to 30 years ago would have been seen as abnormal and not acceptable. And she said there's a reason for that change. It has nothing to do with selling the product. She said these advertisements are aimed at children. Now, obviously, the advertisements are aimed at adults because children are not going to go out and buy a new car. And they're not going to go to their doctor today for the latest $35,000 shot. However, she said the situations in these are aimed at children. You see, they know children watch a lot of TV. And they know that children are sitting there when the ads come on. And so they present these situations so children will see them over and over again. Simply by seeing these situations over and over again, children get the idea that those things are normal. So you see, the advertisements are not just trying to sell a car. They're trying to impart values to children. Now, you may agree with the values that they're trying to impart. A lot of people do. But even if you do, it's using underhanded techniques to influence children and to engineer society in a certain direction. I know I've said this before, but many of the changes that we have witnessed in society in the past few decades would never have happened had it not been for television. Because television has been the medium through which people have been conditioned to accept them. Same thing even applies to things like Hallmark movies. They have situations in Hallmark movies today that never would have been in a Hallmark movie in the 1970s. But they're there today. You see, in the starkest terms, the Bible condemns this sort of stuff, but yet it is condemned with us. Why? Because it works. From politics, to business and industry, to personal relationships, deception and dishonesty is an effective way of getting what you want. Psychologists and social science has done studies on these things, and they say that the main reason people use deception, shrewdness, craftiness, scheming, behind the scenes, slyness, is that it works. You can get what you want if you do those things. And as studies have been done on these things, a paradox has been found. People claim to place a high value on honesty, openness, above-board dealing. When asked about the traits people look for in a politician, honesty ranks right near the top. But look who gets elected. It don't make sense, does it? When asked about what qualities people look for in a company, in a business, in a product, honesty ranks at the top. Honesty from the company ranks even higher than the quality of a product. But look at the businesses they succeed. When asked what qualities people look for in personal relationships, honesty ranks near the top. But yet another study indicated that the most popular teenagers are the ones who have mastered the art of deception. people really value honesty as much as they claim to, would things be like they are today? You see, people might say they value honesty, but they don't choose based on honesty. One study indicated that on average, most people tell 1 to 2 lies per day. Another study showed that most people will cheat if they believe no one will see it and they can get back with it. Why is it that on one hand we claim to value honesty so much, yet at the same time have created a society where dishonesty and deceit are the way to success, and where we not only tolerate it, but we elect them as our leaders, patronize their businesses, and join in and participate in it? Why? It's because we are adept at justifying it when it suits our purpose. Although we claim to value honesty, if we see it causing bad, and if we see that dishonesty from our perspective could cause something better, we see dishonesty as okay. Situational ethics. Sometimes dishonesty is the best way to go. We have a way of rationalizing dishonesty if we see it done from good motives. If we see it done out of bad motives, it's bad. If we see it done from good motives, it's good. We tell ourselves dishonesty and deceit are not in themselves bad if they are used out of good intention to try to accomplish good things. Yes, the government may lie, but you know, sometimes they have to. They can't tell us the truth. They have to put out these lies. They have to make us live in a fantasy world. What would come if they told us the truth about things? So we tolerate it. Let's go back to television. If I feel children should have the values that these advertisements are trying to impart to them, if I feel the world would be a better place if these values were in place, if I'm really genuinely trying to make the world a better place by doing this sly, underhanded, sneaky stuff, what's the harm? After all, it's really not helping me sell cars. I'm doing a public service, so to speak. I'm doing an altruistic thing. I'm trying to make the world a better place. Why can't I do that? Why is it bad to do that if it's leading to something good? What's the harm? You see, that's why all this stuff is endemic in our society. It's not because people are trying to be evil. It's not because people are trying to do wrong. It's because people are trying to do good. They're trying to achieve a good goal, and they think that in this instance, deception and dishonesty is the best way to do it, and so they do it. Think about that, the times you've used deception, scheming, or underhanded tactics to accomplish something. Did you do it to be evil? Now, did you feel like you had horns growing up out of your head and I'm going to do this? Or did you do it to try to do something good? I bet you tried to do it good. You probably felt, okay, in this particular situation, given all the circumstances and all this is the best thing to do. I bet you did it with good intentions. You didn't do it to cover up the fact that you murdered 12 people during your freshman year in college or something like that. So you didn't do it out of evil intention. That's why evil is so insidious. And I've said in here before that evil does not appear evil. Evil appears good. What's the harm in dabbling in this stuff just a little bit if it's for good motives? Because it's like a cesspool. And once you get in it, it starts swirling and swirling and swirling and you can't get out. No matter how good your intentions are, that's how it works. And God knows how it works, and that's why God tells us to stay out of it. And that's why Satan likes it so much. It looks so attractive. It works. So we do it. And we're using it for good motives. And we think it will lead to good. And it does occasionally. But eventually we use it all the time. Eventually we become attracted and staring at it. And we end up with the whole society based on lies, deception. By the time we see the danger, it's too late. We're hopelessly sucked in. We're sucked in so deep we can't get out. That's why God warns us against it. The short-term results of dishonesty, deception, and slime, manipulating, underhanded dealings, and scheming, and they look attractive. But in the long run, it does not work out for everybody. Are you satisfied with things the way things are today? If you answer yes to that, then you say, yeah, it works. It works. If you answer no to that, and maybe the reason you're not is that maybe at least part of the reason things are the way they are today is so much dishonesty, deception, manipulation. It's hard for us to believe that stuff done out of good intention and for good motives can be harmful in the long run. We've talked in here before about what makes particular actions either right or wrong, moral or immoral. And we talked about several ideas about it. And we saw that the one that makes the most sense is that some behavior, some actions just intrinsically lead to bad things. And it may be bad things way down the road that we can't see. With our limited vision, we can't see all the effects of doing this, that, or the other. But of course, God can. And so that's why God tells us not to do this thing. Not because God just doesn't like it. It's not because God likes Coke instead of Pepsi. It's because God looks down the road and he sees, okay, if people do this, that, and the other, it's going to lead to this horrible outcome down the road, so he tells us not to do it. We don't see it'll lead to this horrible outcome down the road, but God does. And that's why God tells us not to do these things. And that's where morality comes in. Things that are immoral are things that God sees way down the road are going to lead to bad things that we can't tell. So he says, don't do it. Don't go down that road. I know it looks good now, but you won't like where it leads you. So he says, just don't go down it. That's morality. And I think that this stuff about dishonesty and deceit, lying, shrewdness, craftiness, underhanded dealings, deception, fall into that category. We live in the world today where we're beginning to see the results of all that. Not only in society, but in Christianity itself. You know, being a Christian is a two-way street. You know, sometimes, you know, people will be real selfish about the reason they want to be a Christian. They want something. You know, they want to avoid hell, or they want to go to heaven, or they want God to do something for them, or they want their life to be happier, or something. They want something out of it, in other words. But you know, being a Christian is a two-way street. It involves us taking the initiative and trying to pattern our lives after the way God is. And pattern our lives after the way God tells us to live. Not just because God's some old cranky man that doesn't like this, that, or the other, but because God can see way down the road and see the things that are going to be harmful to us down the road that we can't see. And so he's trying to warn us against it. So remember that being a Christian is a two-way street. It's not just on the receiving end. We have to take the initiative and try to pattern our lives after the way God is. And I would suggest that especially today, honesty is the place we should